So this afternoon, I'd like to share with you the 10 practices of conscious living. Now, much of the work I do, as Pam showed to you, is with conscious leaders. And of course, in some ways, we're all leaders. We're leaders of ourselves. We may be leaders in our family. We may be leaders in our communities, in our business, in our organizations. There's plenty of places we're leaders. And so the practices for conscious living and for conscious leadership are really the same. So this really fits quite well. So I'm going to introduce this model and it's a framework for me to talk about conscious leadership, conscious living, and to share the 10 practices of conscious leadership. And you'll see this on the front of your handout, so you do have the detail here. So the ones at the top, noticing. So this really is about becoming wide awake. So it's about sensing, it's about learning, and it's about living. The next group is about setting intention. This is really about getting clarity around the direction we're heading in. And so I'm going to talk about exploring purposefully, about thinking possibility, and about committing to action. And then the third group is acting responsibly. It's all about taking the right actions. So it's about speaking candidly, practicing integrity, and taking responsible action. And if you'll remind me before we finish, I'll tell you about the 10th practice. I'd like to start with a story. Some of the stories, you may have heard this before. It's a Zen Buddhist story. So I'd like to share this with you because I think it's extremely relevant to particularly our noticing. So a man was being chased by a tiger, a vicious tiger. So he's running away. The tiger is chasing him. He gets to a precipice. Tiger's still chasing him. He sees a vine just growing over the edge of the precipice. So he climbs over the precipice and starts to climb down the vine to get away from the tiger. He looks down below, and there's another tiger. He looks up where the vine is going back up the top of the precipice, and there's a mouse gnawing away at the vine. And then he notices a strawberry just within arm's reach. So he stops, reaches out, and tastes that strawberry. Tastes really good. So the question for us as we notice what's going on around us is, can we notice the strawberry when we're being chased by the tigers? And so the meditation at the beginning is part of a practice for us all to stop and just spend a little bit of time being mindful about what's going on, and maybe not worrying about the tigers, but tasting the strawberry. Now, as I share all of these practices this afternoon, I'm hoping that you'll say, this is relevant to me. And the reason I say that is because it is relevant to you. Whether you're sitting here thinking, well, I need to change a habit or a behavior, or I need to change the way my team is working or the way I'm interacting with my team, or if you have something in your organization that you want to change a culture, whatever it is, maybe you have a dream to change the world, these practices can be applied to the whole range of things. So I encourage you to sit here and think about what you noticed and think about, what can I be doing? How can I apply some of these practices? So we're going to start with the first one, sensing. And as you saw in the meditation, it's not just about listening with our ears. It's about listening with all of our senses. What if you were being chased by that tiger? You wouldn't just hear his footsteps. You'd be sensing a lot more than the sound of that tiger. You would be sensing something going on inside you. The senses of your body happening. the fear that would be coming up. So there's plenty of senses, and we need to be sensitive to all of those changes. I don't know about you, I get emails all the time. In fact, I was reading this morning that the average number of emails that we receive is now 150 a day. Now, some of you probably get a lot more than that, and some maybe a little bit less, but it's still a lot of emails. And there are a few when I see a name on that email, I know it spells trouble. I see the name, I know there's a question in there that I don't want to deal with. I've learned to delay the response, sometimes even delay reading the email, because my reaction is not the right reaction. So I take a break. I put the email aside. I'll red flag it to come back later, but maybe I don't even read it. And Viktor Frankl, author of the book Man's Search for Meaning, he says, between stimulus and response, there's a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and freedom. So again, when we have that sensation, when we notice what's going on, whatever that sensation, it's good to be listening deeply, but then creating the space before we react. So let me talk a little bit about the learning piece here. For me, this is about being curious. You know, I work with leaders who aspire to be conscious. Some of them are really conscious leaders, some are simply just aspiring. But if they're not curious, they're probably not someone I want to work with. I want someone who's really curious about themselves, curious about the environment. I also want to see people seeking new ideas. There's plenty of ideas out there. It's not a case we've done all that before, we can't do it again. There's plenty of new ideas. And it's also about learning from experience, creating the space for learning, both individually for ourselves and in the groups we're here. So remaining open to new ideas, new insights, new learnings, something I call relentless learning. Relentless learning. For me, that inspires me to be always learning from everything that's going on. So as I notice what's happening, I'm noticing the learning opportunities. And it's also about self-awareness. So when we're learning, it's being self-aware as well as aware of our surroundings. It's also about making or accepting mistakes and failures as learning opportunities. We're all going to make mistakes. We're all going to have failures. That's just human life. But don't let that get us down. Let's take it as a learning opportunity. What can I learn from that? What happened? What can I learn? So it's also about receiving and giving feedback. And this is an area that I call developing learning agility. So I hear the feedback, how am I going to respond to it? So listening to feedback is important. For me, as important is giving feedback. So I notice things in myself, people give me feedback, I can change. There's also an opportunity for us to notice what's going on in others and share with them. So all this learning is not about wanting to be right. It's really wanting to continue the learning. I like the phrase, it's better to be kind than right. You've heard that one before, right? Yeah. Better to be kind than right. So for me, conscious leaders, conscious people see more, they hear more, they feel more. They include more and exclude less. So this whole thing about noticing is really important. Before we go to the next step of setting intention and taking action, we really need to notice what's going on around us. Okay, so let's move on to the next of the three practices about setting intention. And so for me, this is about clarity of direction. It's where we're headed. So we're going to talk about those three elements. And we'll start off with exploring purposefully. So this is about knowing your individual life purpose. I wonder, just as a quick show of hands, how many of you could tell me what your life, I don't want you to do it right now, but tell me who knows your life purpose? your life purpose. Why are you here? So quite a few of you. That's good. That's good. It's something to think about. If we know what our purpose is, then we can work on the other things. But if we don't know where we're headed or why we're here, it's difficult to do. It's also about knowing the purpose of your organization. You know, whether it's a small organization or a large organization, what's your purpose? And then it's a case of exploring all the opportunities, but aligned to that purpose. There's plenty of ideas out there. But what are those ideas are aligned to your purpose? So I know some people believe that we're born with a calling. A number of books written about that. I'm not sure about that personally. I don't know. But I do know that our purpose is here inside us. And all we have to do is uncover it or discover it. It's there. I like Neil Donald Walsh's comment, who said, and Neil Donald Walsh was the author of Conversations with God, and he's done a lot of other things since then, but he says, there's no blackboard in the sky on which is written your mission or your purpose. There's nothing like Dr. Paul Ward, handsome guy from West Palm Beach. This is his purpose. It's just not there. It's up to us to determine what our purpose is. And we can define it in any way we wish. I encourage it for you to be short. Some of them are long, but you can have a short purpose. So I think that's really important. So let me share just a few examples of purpose statements. So BarryWehmiller is an interesting organization. It's a $2.4 billion corporation, headquartered up in Michigan. And Bob Chapman, who's now the CEO, says of his company, BarryWehmiller is in business to improve lives. Now, BarryWehmiller as an organization is into manufacturing technology. So when he says we're in business to improve lives, he's talking about his employees as well as the world he's living in. So he says we're in business so that all our team members have meaningful and purposeful lives. He's just written a book co-authored with Raj Sisodia called Everybody Matters. It's just, I just have picked it up just recently. It's a great book. It just describes the way Bob Chapman took over the company from his father many years ago and how he has adapted what I would call conscious leadership to his organization. So we have the purpose of Mental Health Association. Pam and I were talking about this the other day. So we were trying to say, well, okay, what is the purpose? We found it written in the annual report. Improving the lives of people touched by mental illness. Simple, but a very powerful statement. So as we think about, as an organization, who we're serving, why we're here, it's very clear that the work we do is all about improving the lives of people touched by mental illness. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of people to serve. Now, at Future Shapers Florida, if you've looked at the website, you'll see it says, making the world a better place to live and work. That's our purpose as an organization. That's what we want to do. So I'm concerned, personally, I'm concerned about the environment outside. I'm also concerned about the environment inside. I want people to come to work because they want to, not because they have to. And so my work with conscious leaders is to help them create that environment where people really want to come to work. There's plenty of statistics about employee engagement, but it's pretty low. Some of us are fortunate we work in organizations that we really want to go to work. A lot of people don't. So it's a real opportunity for us to really focus on creating a work environment where people want to come to work. They come to work because they want to, not because they have to. So let me move on to the third piece, which is committing to action. So this is about really getting to the intention that we want to have. Now, if I'm doing this in an organization, then I really want a clearly articulated statement of intent that's understood by everybody, all the stakeholders, not just my management team, but my customers, my suppliers, all the employees. It needs to be aligned to our purpose and our passion. and it needs to be supported by a strong commitment to responsible action, which is where we're headed next. So this is about thinking possibility. It's about having a clear purpose and setting the intention of, this is where I want to head. Okay, so just a couple of things just to bring this to a close. I talked about 10 practices. We've talked about 9. But the 10th is doing all of the practices all the time. So yes, there's a flow there, but we can always refer back to those 9 practices. And the 10th one then is doing all the practices all of the time. And then just in terms of a summary, in terms of conscious leaders or conscious people, then what are they? Conscious leaders are mindful of their environment, regardless of what the environment is. If it's their workplace, their home, the environment outside, whatever it is, they're mindful. They set clearly defined and purpose-driven intentions. That's a big part of what we talked about today. They're innately attracted to what's possible. So the possibility thinking. And keep going no matter what. Never give up. Sometimes getting started with no idea that what can happen. Just get started. Let's just jump off the ledge. Learn to fly on the way down. Working on what is intrinsically self-rewarding and of service to others. And really taking full responsibility for their impact, for our impact on the world. So thank you all for participating, for listening. I hope you'll be living more consciously as a result of the workshop. And I hope you'll become a more conscious leader of yourself and others. So it's up to you to live and lead consciously and make the world a better place to live and work. Thank you.